for a minute before we start.
You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. We are all. We'll try that again.
All right, how about with the singer doing the introduction? Let us stand and sing We Are All Friends Here, our opening song.
We are all friends here. There are no strangers once you walk inside that door.
Or online.
We welcome you to linger in this family of love and hold you in our hearts
the way you are.
We are all friends here. There are no strangers once you walk inside that door. We welcome you to linger in this family of love and hold you in our hearts the way you are. We are all friends here. There are no strangers once you walk inside that door. We welcome you to linger in this family of love and hold you in our hearts the way you are. Hold you in our hearts the way you are. And hold you in our hearts the way you are.
Thank you, everyone. And now, while we're still standing, let's do our congregational blessing. This is where we hold our hands up and send energy to each other, and we say, we love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the Christ in you. And then finally, I am the light of Christ. I know Carolyn added that. So, all right.
I am the light of Christ.
Okay. And I think it's time for Kathy.
Yes, it's my turn. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome each and every one of you for coming out on this beautiful rainy day. I love it. And anyway, I would like to thank each and every one of our helpers today for Diana and Janice to doing our ushering today, and Shoba for doing our sound, and for Al stepping up today to help out as Ken and Carolyn are gone on their vacation. They're having a great time when I talk to them. And for Anton and Laura for doing all of our music today and doing our talk. Anton, we thank you so much for coming and doing this for us. So As we go today, I would like to do our opening prayer. So if you'd like to join me right here and now, and just closing your eyes, and just letting go. Take that deep breath and go within. We give thanks and gratitude as we come to service this day, to hear the message, to hear who is in my temple. So as we go through this day, and you glean what you need from our talk today, go with gratitude, go with light and love. So through this day, we say thank you, God, and so it is. Amen. Now I'd like to invite Al up to do our UCIR consciousness statement. Oh, I gotta light the candle. I'm sorry. Whoops, I forgot the candle.
The candle hasn't forgotten.
Yep.
So Kathy's lighting the Christ candle. I'm not sure whether that appears on camera or not, but
It is.
okay.
Okay, if you'll join me in saying, we light this candle to remind us that the light of Christ lives within each and every one of us. I am the light of Christ. And so now I would like to invite Al up.
I think we're going to
Oh, the Lord's Prayer first?
The Lord's Prayer today.
Well, geez. I want to see Al up there.
I know that a lot of you know this version, and you're welcome to sing along if you like. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And leave us not in temptation, but deliver us from error. For thine is the kingdom
and the power and the glory forever.
All right, no need to clap, it's a prayer. So,
Kathy, I'm here. Al is up, and we are good. And welcome, especially those of you who are joining us afar and are with us in spirit. We welcome you to this very, very special Unity service. So grateful. Golly, you know, when somebody does the Lord's Prayer with the kind of voice you have, backed by the keyboard that we all enjoy. I mean, it really is very, very special, and thank you. You're special musicians, and we're blessed to have you. I'd like to share with you now our Unity Consciousness Statement, which reads, and you can join me, please. Divine order is now manifesting in every phase of this ministry through its expanding prosperity, attendance, and by being a light on the path for others. And now, a special joy song.
all right, this is kind of a rock and joy song, so if you'd like to stand and get your little shakers, we can have fun with this one. news.
Chariots are coming, good news. Chariots are coming, good news. Chariots are coming, and I don't want it to leave me behind. There's a long white robe in heaven, I know.
A long white robe in heaven, I know.
There's a long white robe in heaven, I know. And I don't want it to leave me behind. Good news, chariots are coming, good news. Chariots are coming, good news. Chariots are coming, and I don't want it to leave me behind. There's a pair of wings in heaven, I know.
A pair of wings in heaven, I know.
There's a pair of wings in heaven, I know. And I don't want it to leave me behind. Good news, chariots are coming, good news. Chariots are coming, good news. Chariots are coming, and I don't want it to leave me behind. There's a starry crown in heaven, I know.
Ooh, a starry crown in heaven, I know.
There's a starry crown in heaven, I know. And I don't want it to leave me behind. Good news, chariots are coming, good news. Chariots are coming, good news. Chariots are coming, and I don't want it to leave me behind. There's a golden harp in heaven, I know.
A golden harp in heaven, I know.
There's a golden harp in heaven, I know. And I don't want it to leave me behind. Good news, chariots are coming, good news. Chariots are coming, good news. Chariots are coming, and I don't want it to leave me behind. Good news, chariots are coming, good news. Chariots are coming, good news. Chariots are coming, and I don't want it to leave me behind.
Wow, 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 wow. Thank you, thank you. Gosh. And what a great song leading in today's daily word. Because the theme today is passion in our daily word. And wow, we have it. And again, to all of you joining us from afar, we hope you will be with us with the daily word. And just so I can be sure, if Pastor is watching, she is so far off. She's all the way in Memphis, Tennessee, the home of the King. So Pastor Carolyn and Pastor Ken, I'm going to look up now to make sure I see you way far out there. That's an inside joke. You had to be here the last couple of Sundays to fully appreciate. Thank you. There's a courtesy laugh over in the corner. We like that. Okay, passion today. The theme is my purpose fuels my passion. And if you join with me now, please read. My purpose fuels my passion. Purpose sets my heart aflame with passion. Each day I awaken ready to answer the call of my heart, to give my best efforts and fullest attention to purposeful activity. Passion is the energy I bring to everything I do. I discover the glory of God through passion as I do the things that make me feel the most alive, that fill me with energy and zeal and color the world with hope and promise. I recognize the divine presence behind it all. God is the source of all the passion I feel and the purpose that drives me. My passion is not for me alone. The life energy that radiates from me inspires those around me to live a life of purpose and passion, to boldly express their divinity as only they can. These marvelous words were inspired by the first chapter of Peter, or 1 Peter, chapter 4, and verse 11. Whoever speaks must do so as one speaking the very words of God. Whoever serves must do so with the strength that God supplies.
Thank you, Al. I love your emceeing. You have a gift. So we're going to do things a little bit differently today.
We're not doing a meditation right now, so the lights can come back on.
Anton, just, I'm talking. Okay, we're going to do things a little bit differently today. We know this is the time when normally there's a meditation, but we're going to do the meditation at the end of the talk. So we'll bring all of our community prayers and things in at that time. So just hold those thoughts with you. And right now we're going to do the celebration song to lead into the talk. So we're kind of taking the talk and, adding modules to it. Just be patient. We promise you, you'll get all the good stuff you normally get here at Unity Church in Reading today.
And we would especially like to thank all the people who braved the incredible rain to come here today.
Yes.
Thank you all.
We are bold and we have a Subaru. So we can easily get from Mount Shasta. So we're going to start with the song, Who is in My Temple? It was written by Rabindranath Tagore and set to music by Yogananda, Paramahansa Yogananda.
Who is in my temple? Who is in my temple? All the doors do open themselves, all the lights do light themselves, all the doors do open themselves, all the lights do light themselves. Darkness like a dark bird flies away, oh flies away. Darkness like a dark bird flies away, oh flies away. Who is in my temple? Who is in my temple? All the doors do open themselves, all the lights do light themselves, all the doors do open themselves, all the lights do light themselves. Darkness like a dark bird flies away, oh flies away. Darkness like a dark bird flies away, oh flies away. Darkness like a dark bird flies away, oh flies away. Darkness like a dark bird flies away, oh flies away.
So that's to give us a little food for thought before we begin our talk, which is also titled, Who is in My Temple? Now, the original title of this talk, it was a workshop at one time, and it was called, Have You Updated Your Sacred Space Lately? But Carolyn thought it was more poetic to call it, Who is in My Temple? So we can thank her for that switch. So, but it's the same idea. And how this came about is that Anton and I were reflecting that in the last couple years during the pandemic, we all may have learned a few things about ourselves. We may have surprised ourselves. We may have been surprised by other people. And that made us think that wouldn't it be a great time to do a little spiritual reevaluation in a really nice way? So my hope is that if we kind of take on this process of reevaluating, that we might be able to see a clearer view of those discoveries that we've made over the last couple years. It's been a difficult time for people, but a lot of times gifts come out of that. Some really interesting gifts can come out of that. And it may actually cause us to realize that we have new things, new gifts, and new offerings to give to the world and make the world a better place. So we wanted to look at how some of those outer things that have changed may have set it up so that we can make an inner change as well, and how those processes work together. So a quick show of hands, how many of you may have found or created, like a little altar or something, a sacred space, like a church, an altar, a favorite park bench, a tree, even your yoga mat, or your couch, it could be, that you have used intentionally at least once, possibly regularly, or even every day, for the purpose of personal meditation or prayer. Does anyone do that? I see a lot of hands. That's a great sign. So how many of you doing that, finding your little sacred space outside of yourself, how many of you have created an inner sacred space that you can use either in conjunction with your outer space, or if you're out and about in the world, kind of like a little internal pop-up tent that's your own personal sanctuary? Has anyone done that? I see still a lot of hands. This is good. You guys are good. This is good. So now there's another question. How long has it been since you've updated your sacred space? Are we all using the same old sacred space that we had 2 or 3 years ago? So we might be, it's not a problem, because it could be the perfect space for you. But as the world changes, as we change, we might want to just take a look and see if we need a little sacred space vacation, a refresher. So 2 big concepts today will help us in our explorations. And these are famous: center everywhere, circumference nowhere. You've probably all heard that one before. Center everywhere, circumference nowhere. And the second biggie, as above, so below. Aren't those classic? I love them. So those 2 things, center everywhere, circumference nowhere, and as above, so below. The basic architecture or features of sacred space, I'd like to talk about those, because those might spur our brains to think of this in a new way. Liminality. Has anyone heard of the word liminal or liminality? It's kind of one of those big bookish words, but we hear it from time to time. So liminality creates a boundary between sacred space and our everyday common space. Now, some of you smarties are probably thinking, well, it all is sacred space because God is everywhere. Yes, that's true. But we're trying to set up something that helps, like a tool that we can use. So liminality becomes an important concept because, anytime someone comes along and rattles your cage, you're going to need to go through that liminal doorway and into your sacred space to keep your center and respond in the most loving way possible. So liminality as a concept can really come in handy. So our liminal doorways are generally physical or imaginative. So we may set up entry into our sacred space through a variety of sensory or consciousness avenues. So common ones are vision, like some people, I see this beautiful sunset and I'm going right into my sacred space, for instance. Sound, aroma, touch, proprioception. That's another fancy word, but that means your sensations of where you are in space in your body. Think about like someone who does yoga. They might be using that proprioception to enter their sacred space. Other things that relate more to consciousness are words. Words can trigger us to enter it. Memory, impressions, the feeling of expansiveness or groundedness and comfort, heightened awareness, or just a feeling of sanctuary. I'm sure sometimes when we come here to the church, we feel that we're literally and also aligned in ourselves in a sanctuary. So activities associated with liminal doorways. Remember, the liminal area is that kind of boundary area. So if there's a doorway there and you were going to walk through it from regular common space into your sacred space, this doorway might be opened through meditation, prayer, dreams, art, exercise, asceticism, not my favorite, but that works for some people. Even drugs. Some people use, sacred hallucinogens, peyote ceremonies, that sort of thing. So those are all ways that people have reached those things. I mean, meditation and prayer, that's one of the easiest ones on the planet for anybody to access right away. Sometimes we might have a sacred guide within our sacred space. So a shamanistic guide, a spirit guide, a power animal, things like that. So we might have a guide. Some people do. God might come directly to people as a guide. Some people have a guide, some people don't. Once we enter sacred space, we might perceive it or imagine it just beyond our liminal experience, but through familiar sensory or consciousness analogs. That's a lot of more fancy wording, and that means that if we enter sacred space, so we walk through that doorway, we do our meditation, our prayer, we walk through that doorway, how do we experience our sacred space? Well, we experience it through usually these same analogs that we live in our everyday lives. Vision, sound, aroma, touch, proprioception. We might have visions, or we might, remember a smell. Words, memory, impressions, expansiveness, groundedness, heightened awareness, sanctuary. So you can see that here we get a little bit of that as above, so below. The outer consciousness that we're utilizing to get into the sacred space has its mirror, its parallel inside the sacred space. They're very dynamic, and they go back and forth through that liminal doorway, whatever it is, our meditation, our prayer. So it's a very alive experience. So if you guys would indulge me, I know you're good, so you probably will. Let's do, if you don't mind, a little exercise. So this will involve some imagining, and you feel free to enter meditation or prayer while you do this. Think of just a few things, just maybe one thing, two things, three things that you feel must be part of your sacred space, that you really need it to be part of your sacred space. And just make a mental note. All right, now I want you to make your mental note. If you've thought of a couple things, just raise a hand and I'll kind of know that people are okay. So let's move on. Now that you've thought of those things, just put those in the back of your mind. And while we listen to the beautiful music, let's start from just a completely blank place. If you can just imagine a blank place, like a place that's just maybe a shimmering color, just something that to you is just kind of a a blank slate place that's safe and positive. And as you walk, maybe you roll, maybe you just sit and enjoy the space. You can walk into it. It could take shape around you. As it transforms, let it transform into anything you like. Just let it come to you. And describe that space to yourself. Give it a little boost in form. And again, when you feel that you've reached a point of really having hold of it, then just give me a little hand wave and I'll know that we're there. I think more than half of people are there. So now I'm going to ask you some questions, and just answer these for yourself while the music plays. Is there anything or anyone waiting for you in your sacred space? And should they be there? Do you enjoy or feel comfortable with the features of this space? Do you like it? What are your spiritual expectations within this space? Do you yourself think that you will meet those expectations? Is there anything you want or need? Could this space be better designed to meet your needs? This is your time to upgrade or do a little remodeling if you wish. And how? And finally, what surprises you the most about this space that you're in, your sacred space? So as we flow with the music for just a moment longer, ask yourself, have there been any differences or deepenings from those initial couple little things you thought really must be part of your sacred space? Ask yourself, what can you take forward from this vision or experience that you've had? Has your perspective shifted? So as we float back into this room, the music is coming to a close. We're going to do a little bit of thinking. When you feel comfortable, just open your eyes. The beauty of this exercise is that you can go back to it at any time you wish. You can redo it at any time in your own meditation or prayer or practice. So I just wanted to give you a taste of what it could be like to open up to that center everywhere, circumference nowhere space, and let your sacred space rebuild around you and then how to balance your needs and wants with maybe other more subconscious or spiritual input that could guide you in redefining the space. So here's a few thoughts or questions to think about. One of the purposes of sacred space is to create or define a boundary area past which your personal sanctuary exists. You can always have this sanctuary. That's part of the center everywhere, circumference nowhere. I think there was a movie once that phrased it this way: wherever you go, there you are. That's often taken in kind of a negative way, like, yeah, you can't really get away from your own baggage, right? But it also means that you are that sanctuary. You take that wherever you go. So this is something you have. It's unique to you, and a beautiful creative effort between you and the divine. That's pretty special. So this liminal or between state that we need to pass through to get to our sacred space, it could be as simple as you giving yourself a keyword. Like say something happens that's just unfortunate or less than expected, and you have a word that can transport you instantly to your sacred space. Kind of like having a magic lamp or something that you can just touch it and you're there. The genie appears and ushers you into your sacred space or whatever. So you can create a boundary or a doorway that takes you right there. I think the more people meditate and the more they practice these things, it actually gets easier and easier to enter that space whenever we want to access it. So the other thing to remember is that liminal, that doorway, is protective. It helps us get to the sacred space, and it also protects our sacred space from unwanted outside influences. Like if that keeps it sacred. It lets it be truly ours. And finally, refreshing our sacred space occasionally keeps our minds and our hearts open and allows us to ask those big questions. So if we use those principles, center everywhere, circumference nowhere, that opens us to find our center, but stay very open, loving, and connected with the universe and all that is. If we use as above, so below, we know that as our sacred space is, so can our lives be. Really, truly beautiful expressions of the divine. So that's why we chose this title, Who is in My Temple? My temple, who is in my temple? And is it a meeting place with God? Or is it a place where the real me, the real you, can really reside? You are protected in knowing that deeper answer. And your personal sacred space is a reflection of the larger cosmos. So again, as above, so below. So I want to just leave you with a couple takeaways from this. So renewing or updating, reimagining, re-envisioning our sacred space, it can deepen our feeling of sanctuary and safety and help us update our answers to the big questions like, what do we value? What do we stand for? Who are we? And the other thing is, I'd like to ask all of you, how will you take your sacred space out into the world? Because you saw it in the unity consciousness statement, divine order now manifests, et cetera, so that we can be a light on the path for others. We do this for ourselves, but we also do it for our community and for people everywhere and the earth. So we might find some ideas in community. This is the perfect place to experience it as others reflect their sacred spaces back to us. So I see the Christ in you. I am the light of Christ. This is all working together in a beautiful way. So I'd like to thank you all for listening and turn it over to Anton.
So my part of the talk will be brief because there's not a lot of time, and because I'm in charge of the meditation afterwards. So I look at everything that comes in these talks through a historical perspective. I have a master's degree in history of religion. And this idea of sacred space, we're not going to go to the meditation yet, so it'll be a little while. The idea of sacred space, it's present in every culture throughout the world, which means that somehow or other it's encoded in our DNA. This is something that, as a species, humanity has. Every person has this in common. In many cultures, the sacred space is symbolized as a circle. Black Elk states, everything the Indian does is done in a circle. The sky is round, so are the stars. The wind in its greatest power whirls. Birds make their nest in circles, for theirs is the same religion as ours. The sun comes forth and goes down again in a circle. The moon does the same. Both are round. Even the seasons form a great circle, and they're changing and always come back again to where they were. The life of man is a circle, from childhood to childhood. And so it is in everything where power moves. Our teepees were round like the nests of birds. They were always in a circle, the nation's hoop. So different societies have symbolized sacred space and that journey to sacred space. Sacred space, the Native American tradition, a circle with a cross in the center. And Native Americans also made use of spirals, that journey to the sacred space, that liminal space, the threshold that Laura talks about. We have it here. We open the door, all of a sudden those bells ring. We're here, we've arrived. We've started our journey. Our journey is complete when we come into the sanctuary. And we have an expectation that there's something special in the center of that sacred space. The mazes, spirals, different ways of entering the sacred space. In Europe, they had labyrinths, which originally were temples to the goddess. Labyrinth comes from a pre-Indo-European word, labrys, which means a double-headed axe. The axe symbolizes the wings of a butterfly. That was the goddess of renewal. The butterfly has its phoenix moment when it comes out of the cocoon. We have our moment when we enter that sacred space, that moment of rebirth. And the sacred space within us is something, that journey to sacred space that we do on a daily basis, because I forget. Something happens, I forget I'm a God being, a being where my body is a temple to God, as above, so below, where that whole cosmos exists inside me. I forget that. And then I have to, every day, go through that journey back to that center, to that sacred space. In India, the sacred space was symbolized as a round object, a mandala. Mandala just means circle. The other word for circle in India is chakra. And of course, the chakras, the energy centers of our body, is how we communicate with the cosmos, as above, so below. That's how that interchange takes place. A real quick thing before we go to the meditation. Hindus and Buddhists believe that there's a mandala that's been physically placed on our planet. The center is this amazing place, Mount Kailash. It's on the Tibetan plateau. And if you're ever fortunate enough to be able to hike into the deep country high in the Himalayas, you'll go through these liminal entrances. They're called toranas. They're just across the main trails up to Mount Kailash. They're big archways. You go through the archway, and when you're on the other side, the first thing you see is prayer wheels and all these carved prayer stones on sides of the trails, to let you know that you're on a blessed journey and that your journey affects other people, because these are blessings to give out to the world. So as we, through our daily life, enter that sacred space on a daily basis, it not only blesses us, it blesses other people. When you're on that pilgrimage to Mount Kailash, I haven't been all the way, but I've been most of the way. People they just want to bless you. They just want to, God bless you for doing this. God bless you for that light in you. And in unity, that's what we feel when we come together in the sanctuary. Our sanctuaries are just the manifestation of sacred space in the world. So we're going to do a meditational practice from Buddhism, from Tibet, where we're kind of doing this as above, so below thing. We're going to visualize dissolving the whole universe to a point of light, and then recreating it as a three-dimensional mandala of universal compassion that blesses the world. And at the end, we'll, like our prayer time, we're going to bring in all our friends and all those that are close to us to be part of this blessing, the community prayer. So we're going to start out with a chant that goes with this practice. You may have heard us do this before. It's an invocation to Tara, who's seen as that seed and presence of universal compassion living within each one of us. It's okay.
Om Tare Tare, Tu Tare Ture Soha. Om Tare Tare, Om Tare Tare, Tu Tare Ture Soha. 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 Om. Tare Tare, Tu Tare Ture Soha. Om 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 Tare Tare, Tu Tare Ture Soha.
also, if you'll visualize going to that deepest place in the center of your being, in the core of your existence. And from this place, as deep as you can access in your center, visualize the universe dissolving to a point of light. And to aid you in this process, we'll do a quick refuge. I take refuge in all spiritual teachings throughout the universe. I take refuge in all beings who are on a spiritual path. And I take refuge in this community of light workers in every village, in every town, in every city throughout the world. May all beings be happy, never separated from immeasurable bliss, free from anger, attachment, and delusion. I vow to remain committed on this path toward enlightenment for as long as breath breathes through this body. And I access that deep spiritual energy to dissolve this entire universe to a point of light. From this state of emptiness, visualize a red lotus with blossoms open. On top of this red lotus, a moon seed appears, a white crescent moon pointing upward. Seated on top of this moon crescent is the green syllable Tom, which is the essence of your own mind. This green syllable Tom is also the bija, the seed syllable for Tara, a being of immeasurable compassion that we create in our own minds. From this green syllable Tom, rays of light are manifest, which make offerings to all spiritual beings throughout the universe for the benefit of all sentient creatures. This light then reabsorbs into yourself as you become Tara. The color of your body is green. Your right hand rests on your right knee in the giving mudra. In it, you hold the vessel of light. Your left hand is at your heart with the ring finger and thumb pressed together, holding the stem of the blue utpala flower. You are peaceful and smiling, adorned by all precious ornaments and garments. Your right leg slightly extended, your left leg tucked in. Your back rests against a wall of moon. At your forehead, Om. At your heart, your throat center, Ah. At your heart center, Hum. And from this hum, rays of light are extended, invoking all the enlightened ones in the 10 directions in the form of green taras with the recitation Om Benza, Samaya, Zahom Bamho. All these deities then reabsorb into yourself. And again from that seed syllable at your heart, light rays go forth in the 10 directions and invoke the 5 initiating cosmic Buddhas as you recite Om Benza, Samaya, and make the request. Please, all enlightened ones, bestow on me all the empowerments. And the enlightened ones respond, saying, Om Sarvatathagata Abhisheka, Samaya Shiriho. Having thus said, they pour water from a vessel onto the top of your head. This water fills up your body completely to the top of your head, purifying all bodily defilements. And in your heart, on that moon seat, is that green letter Tom, surrounded by the complete mantra, Om Tare Tare, Tutare, Ture Soha. Om Tare Tare, Tutare, Ture Soha. From these syllables, rays of light are extended, making offerings to all enlightened beings and all those striving for enlightenment throughout the universe. And these offerings are useful for the benefit of all sentient beings. Now into this center of this great three-dimensional mandala, surrounded by all the great masters, the cosmic Buddhas, Archangel Michael, the Ascended Masters, Jesus. We bring our community of friends. We acknowledge all of those loved ones. And we silently say their names, one by one, and recognize them, bringing them into this great circle of healing, of enlightenment, of compassion, because this is the perfect universe that we're creating. We're sending this energy out with all of those loved ones by our side. And then we acknowledge ourselves at the center of this great mandala as the embodiment of that universal compassion manifests onto the earth. We are indeed the hands and feet of God. Whatever good is done in the universe, in our world, it's done through us, by us. I confess all my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time. I rejoice in the virtue of all holy and ordinary beings. I shall remain committed to this great enlightenment and turn the wheel of all spiritual teachings for the virtues of myself and others. Tare tare, tutare ture soha. Om 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 tare tare, tutare ture soha. Thank you for taking this journey with us. Namaste. Tashi Lake.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much, Ann and Tom and Laura. That makes me feel funny. My meditations are like, next time you come down, we have to talk. Anyway, now is our time for giving our offering. So I'd like to invite our ushers up to come up and let's bless those baskets. And those of you that give monthly, there's a little slip on the back that you can use that for your offering is today. So if you'll join me in holding those offerings in your hand. Let's see. We'd like to say I'd like to bless this. So divine order, we give thanks and gratitude for all the wonderful people that are here today. We give of our time and our talents. And now it's time to give of our offerings. So if you'll just join me in blessing the bowl as you go by with that wonderful offering. We give thanks and gratitude for this.
I love you, I bless you. Thank you for being in the world. I love you, I bless you. Thank you for being in the world. I love you, I bless you. Thank you for being in the world.
Thank you for that. So if the ushers will come back up. And we'd like to give thanks and gratitude for all the blessings that have been given here today. So as they go, not just for the community right here, but we are sharing our blessings throughout the community, throughout Unity itself, our mother church. So we give thanks and gratitude for all that is. Through those powers that dwell within each one of us, we say thank you, God. So it is.
I think it's Al.
It's Al. It's Al. Al has the opportunity to do one of the most exciting dimensions of our experience here at Unity. No, it is the announcements. What you've been waiting for. Announcements. I don't know whether it's center or circumference or where it might be, but we all are enjoying a very, very special moment today. And okay, for your many years of service, this will be the first moment, we're going to share this, that you will ever have announcements read that Pastor Carolyn will not have some words of enlightenment, enhancement, augmentation, or to somehow elaborate on the 7 items I'm going to share with you. Whoa. Okay, here we go. The church office will be open Tuesday through Thursday, 10 a.m. until 1 p.m., and our own Kathy will be holding the court. Number 2, here she is again. See Kathy for prayer before or after Sunday service. You can also call the church. And when you call the church, guess who you will be able to speak with? Kathy. All right. Number 3, noon meditation meets here in the sanctuary and by phone. Number 4, groups meeting this week will be a course of love, a course in miracles, and the presence. Number 5, check the bulletin board for the week's AA group meeting times. If you have any questions about items on the bulletin board, I can't hear you. Kathy, yes. And there will be no after-service class discussion today. And last but not least, we look forward to seeing you next Sunday. Let's read that again. We look forward to seeing you next Sunday, or we ask you to follow us on Facebook, live stream, or view us on YouTube. I feel a hand pawing at me. Yes, Kathy.
I'm going to speak for Carolyn.
Oh, God. Oh, no.
I'm going to speak for Reverend Carolyn.
Lord.
Whoops.
I'll be right back.
Let me step in front. I just wanted to let you know, I know that they didn't have it on the board here, but they will be back next Sunday. So that is all, I think. So I think it's now is time for our peace song.
And I believe we usually stand and we're not holding hands, but we can, whoop it up at the end. Woo!
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as Creator, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
And now it's time for our prayer of protection. So if you'll join me in saying the prayer of protection, and Al's going to do our response for us today. So we'll start with, you ready?
I've never been more ready.
All right. Yay.
Laura was
So
informing
join me.
me that it's a hot mic.
Ah.
And I am ready
For
for
a
this
hot guy.
mic. Let's go, sister.
All right. So join me. The light of God surrounds us.
We are the light of God.
The love of God enfolds us.
We are the love of God.
The power of God protects us.
We embrace that power.
The presence of God watches over us.
We live our lives in God's presence.
Wherever we are, God is. Thank you. Thank you very much for being here with us today and this wonderful, joyous time that we've had. So we'll see you next Sunday, and God bless.